Now my computer lets me sign in, did yours too?
Yeah, it took a little bit this time.
Oh, mine went too.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
What?
Yep. Okay.
Can you hear me? Okay. I'm gonna start the working session.
Okay, go ahead. Yep. I know the finance committee had to cancel tonight's meeting and we'll reschedule and report next month.
And policy committee hasn't met or no?
No,
Okay.
okay. The first thing under my list is the tax abatement, which is not spelled correctly on the, that's an interesting spelling. Tax abatement. I did send out some information regarding the impact on our some of our levies. And I got a response from Greg that I sent out. So a couple of important points, and he went into more information than probably what we needed, based on whether it was the full value or just the added value. If it's full value, as far as your net tax capacity, the levies are abated. So voter approved debt and other NTC levies would be subject to the abatement, but not our local optional revenue referendum, which is spread out on the referendum market value. So in terms of total revenue, basically the district is held harmless. Once the abatement amount is calculated, you would add an economic development abatement levy, according to Greg, in the amount sufficient to add back any lost revenue, which is then spread on all taxpayers as an additional NTC levy. So that is an option for the board to consider, is passing that revenue onto your tax base. So we do have the ability to levy for any lost tax revenue. And to give some grounding, Greg, what he sent me talks about the tax capacity for this parcel of land for taxes payable 2020 was about $10,734. The district's tax capacity is 5.4 million. So this parcel represents about 2% of your local NTC tax base. The other thing that he said we could to think about, another way of looking at it is the total levy of 1.9 million is about 1.5 million spread on the NTC. The abatement of $5,688 would be redistributed across the taxpayers that are paying the 1.5 million. So last year on a $100,000 home, an individual in our district paid $354.76 of school tax. 207 of that was on the NTC taxes. the re-spread that he termed of the 5,688 would have added 78 cents to the annual tax bill for someone in a $100,000 home. With the value added, which is what this situation is, we won't see any changes in current levies. We just will miss out on future increases until the abatement ends. And he said when the abatement ends, people will see their tiny bit of property tax relief as the extra value would pick up the property or the proportionate share of the levy. So in essence, this tax abatement would, the impact on the school levy would be minimal, according to Greg. And I think that's the only added information I have for the discussion. I know in your board packet, Ryan had sent some additional information that went out, some concept pictures of what the project would look like. Anything you want to add, Ryan?
I don't think so at this point. I think unless there's questions for me, I think I've tried to share as much as possible. Now the city is already Monday, September 14th, the city actually adopted the abatement agreement. The county has a public hearing scheduled for October 7th. And my guess is they'll likely approve a 5-year term. And that 5-year term will end up being a total of $42,000. And then, you know, the project breaks ground on October 1st. I've worked with the developer to secure a secondary line of credit through one of our GAP loan programs at Headwaters. And so I think it's the project is where it's at, and I guess I'd be willing to ask any questions. I think I've made my case. I don't want to waste any more of your time with me doing that, but I'd answer any questions. Otherwise, I'd say the next step is really deciding whether or not to hold a public hearing, and if so, what term to do so at.
Did the city go for the 15-year? Is that what I'm understanding?
10-year.
10-year, thank you. And the county is, their public hearing is for 5-year?
Correct.
Okay.
So basically what is on the agenda is for the board to consider setting the public hearing, and that would take place on Monday, October 26th at 7 p.m. And I sent in the packet the actual language that Ryan sent us, and we would need to fill in the blanks. So it would basically be a motion during the regular board meeting to set the public hearing and setting the terms as far as the dollar amount, so we could fill in the public hearing notice. So I think it'd be a good time to just open discussion among the board members. Not that any decision would be made at this time, but be thinking about what direction the motion would go in. If you want to discuss that at all, I will turn it back over.
Can you refresh me on what the annual amount was at 100%?
It would be 5688 is the estimated annual abatement.
Thank you.
I will chime in. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm looking at the numbers, and then once again, I agree with the overall picture. I don't see them as huge to the school district. So right off the bat, I'm not as concerned about the dollar amounts as I am about the emotion that goes behind this. I look at a school district that's really struggling to put large class sizes out that they had at least parallel to stuff that was going on a decade or a decade and a half ago. In other words, our dwindling enrollment is a concern to me. I appreciate Boyd's comments from the last meeting regarding trying to make sure that we have some sort of a eyeball towards local business as well. I think that that's a really valid point, and it made me kind of throw that around the community out here anyway. And I'm getting a positive response, I think, for the most part, to embracing this with their expansion and with the abatement. I guess the same thing I look at in terms of the overall population of the city, the county, which has dropped sort of significantly recently. And I think that as a school district, if we can help along any local business, I don't think it's our job to judge which ones succeed and which ones fail. But if they all came to us and asked us for an abatement and had a program that might do something to make this a stronger, larger, more vibrant community, I would certainly support it in any fashion. I'm not going to just pick and choose and ignore any petition for us on that. But having said that, I'm not sure I'm saying that as literally as I would like to, but I don't see anything other than this as a step forward, and would I'm not looking so much to throw a lot of money their way as I am to throw just the support for that effort their way. So I would look at this and say I would sign on to a 5-year, total number of $28,489 as presented, and say good luck. I'd like to see it succeed. If you can take some of that business away from the Bemidji stopovers that are occurring now, you guys all know what's going on the lake out here with that. I would say let's go for it.
Guess what do you mean by Bemidji stopovers there, Tim?
Well, we've encountered a real use of the county, but not a use of the county services. Things like the Walmart stop for groceries, gas, the ice fishing component of that, where I think that there's a viable trade to be had here, but we haven't provided it as a community in terms of, groceries maybe at a either easier to get, hopefully cheaper level. I mean, I know that was one of the comments that were made. Boy, it'd be nice to see grocery prices for locals be a little more in check. But I mean, they're running a business, like you said, they're there to make a profit. And I don't think it's our judgment to say, all right, we're going to make sure it becomes very protectionist, I guess is what I'm saying. If we say this business should continue to survive, I think it's the competitive nature of business. We would like all businesses to step forward and say, let's improve, let's get better. Let's see if we can make more people stop along Main Street, and that trickle down that will occur, whether it goes to Ronings or whether it goes to the True Value store, all the ancillary businesses will get hopefully a boost out of it. And I say that we really don't want to stick our head in the sand to anything that's moving forward, because what we've done so far as a community hasn't really succeeded. I just, from what I've seen on Main Street, Baudette over the last decade and a half, it's been a struggle there. And I would like to see it enhanced and move forward.
But I think you'll agree that the main reason why people stop at Walmart and Bemidji is better prices, right? Okay.
Yeah, no question. And that's where I can throw that in there and say, let's try it. But I think to say no now in sort of an initial state, maybe somebody else says, maybe a hardware store or a gas station or some other business that we have on Main Street says, well, wow, it worked for them. It'll work for us too. And they come to the school district 5 years down the road and say, hey, that worked. They made their business bigger and better. And I think we can do the same thing. And I'm willing to acknowledge that sales pitch. I think more jobs, more kids. I mean, that's the business we're in.
I don't know if you noticed, but if you look at the grocery shopping part of it, that was on the plans that were sent, there's very little grocery space being added. The main thing, they're reconfiguring the deli a little bit. It was tough to tell from the plans. And they're adding the coffee shop, and they're changing the facade a bit. There's the exact same number of shelves and everything, at least according to the plans that we were sent. So nothing's being enhanced. It's going to be the same store, just look prettier.
Yeah, but maybe you get I mean, the whole concept of pulling a boat into that parking lot, I don't even like to pull my truck or my car in there because it's so tight. So maybe you get an ability to get a truck with a boat behind it in there more easily, or maybe you get an ability to get a fish house, that's pulled behind a truck in there more easily, which I think is one of the reasons you see people stop elsewhere. I mean, it's difficult to stop at the Holiday Station. It's difficult to stop at the grocery store. Why not drive through? That kind of a notion. So I don't know how to run a grocery business, and I would not claim to, but I look at them and say, all right, maybe the groceries don't change, but the other components around do, so that the grocery margin can become a little lower, which in turn makes it a little easier for Tim Lyon to buy a loaf of bread there.
And again, the issue that I agree with you on all of that. I don't think it's the school's responsibility to do that. And one other point that I didn't bring up previously, this was, it recently changed hands. So unless somebody was insane, the condition of the parking lot, the condition of the building, and everything else was built into the sale price. So from a business standpoint, they've gotten their deal because they bought the building in the condition that it was in. If you want to look at this difference between the city and county, as I brought up last time, they should be the ones in the economic development and spurring growth if that's the route they take. I think the school, this is a good time to set the precedence. Let's just say, we wish you well, do your best. The school is staying out of any tax abatements unless there's greatly extenuating circumstances, because then it'll be covered.
And I think we're both feeling good about it. I just think that it is our position as a public entity to, at this point, say, let's move forward as a community. We are a public entity. We're not just a school. We're trying to make things better in total. And we have an opportunity here at a fairly minimal cost to at least emotionally say, you know what, we're going to support the enhancement and the movement forward. It's not occurring. And I hate to look around small town Minnesota, but you can and say, boy, things are tough at different places. I think there's anything we can do. We're as much of a viable victim in this as anybody else.
I'd like to say something. I don't know if I can be heard,
Can
but I
you
don't
get mic closer?
know that it's necessarily our position as the school board to judge how much he paid for the building or what kind of condition it was in when he bought it or any of that. I don't feel that that's part of our decision-making in anyone that comes forward to be judging, what they paid for it or how much, what it was in when they bought it and all that. I mean, this is a proposal that was brought to us and we should be making the decision. I mean, I disagree with you, Boyd, on what you said. Basically, it's just what I want to say. So
They're asking us for money. You need to consider all conditions. It's a private entity asking us for money.
Okay, so I think we probably need to get
So,
some direction on this.
so I guess the board has been given all the information that we have, unless there's any other questions. Moving forward, I would say during the regular board meeting, it's under old business. And reminder with Robert's rules, you need a motion and a second to move anything forward. So someone can make a motion. If it's not seconded, it can die. If it's seconded, there can be discussion at that point, and then there's a vote up or down. So just a reminder, if there's a board member that's going to make a motion to set a public hearing, it would be for Monday, October 26th at 7 p.m. And that'd be at the start of our normal board meeting. And you would need to state the property tax abatement not to exceed a certain dollar amount over the number of years. So as an example, the example that Tim discussed would be 5 years, not to exceed 28,440 would be an example of a motion. And if there's not a motion, then it dies there. So that is my recommendation, is to, we've had a discussion, the information. Now we need to either move forward with a motion and a vote or not move forward with the lack of a motion.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think at one time we talked about developing policy, and I think regardless of where this goes, it would be nice to have something on the books.
Okay.
And I have looked at what other schools have in place, and there's some examples out there that might make it easier in the future.
Are we thinking if this motion passes that we'll probably come up for a vote on our November school board meeting after that October 26th meeting or a special meeting?
No, what basically what you're doing by setting the hearing date is then you have your public hearing, and Ryan, you can jump in if I'm missing something. You have the public hearing at that time in October.
You'd end up voting on a resolution that had very similar language to the public hearing notice. It would be, there'd be a whereas, as a taxing entity, whereas promoting economic development in the Lakewood School District, and then it would be a abatement agreement for 5 years at not to exceed 5 years or $28,000 if that's what was in the public hearing notice. So it'd be a pretty simple resolution. It would essentially just kind of back up what's in the public hearing and what we've discussed so far. And as I understand, not necessarily the easiest decision before you. And I guess I would just say, I think I'm supportive of whatever decision the board decides. And if there's anything else, let me know. If not, I will confer with Jeff after the regular school board meeting to kind of make a path going forward, whatever decision is made.
So basically tonight on that vote during the regular meeting is probably going to either go forward or it won't pass tonight, is basically what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. Doesn't matter what the public meeting does.
I guess I don't necessarily know. I mean, you'd have to have a first and a second and a vote approving a public hearing. I suppose you could go and at that public hearing, you could have a vote that does not pass that. That's certainly an option. Then you get into some, I would say that's a question for the school board if they want to take something like that on, or if there's just not the votes for it, if it's just not the time or the place for this project. There might just be some sense in letting it go without the public hearing if it's not the project.
I understand. Thanks, Ryan. You did a good job.
Thank you.
I think we'll move on. Thank you, Ryan, for providing the information too that we had requested. Appreciate that.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you all.
Okay.
Jeff, enrollment?
There you go. So just based on the numbers of students enrolling versus unenrolling, and this is compared to the end of last year's numbers, the district is down 12 students, and that's down 6 in the elementary and 6 in the high school. These are preliminary numbers. We have 3 students coming into the elementary, I found out today. So this might change a little bit, but October 1 is a crucial time for enrollment. That sets our numbers for what we're getting for different state aid. And there's adjustments as the year goes by as well as enrollment changes. The elementary had 5 students move in from outside districts over the summer and 2 students enrolled who were homeschooled. We had 5 students within 2 families that elected to homeschool their children this year. We had 7 students who moved or open enrolled in other districts, and we had 1 student who returned to their resident district. So they were open enrolled here and they went back to their resident district. In the high school, we had 2 new students move into the district. We had 3 students move outside of the district and 2 students open enrolled at a neighboring district. There was 1 student who enrolled back into their home district and 1 student who is being homeschooled. I sent out a chart, and it's what we're calling our enrollment melt. And those numbers are based on our projected budgeted numbers, not the enrollment at the end of next year. So we projected 222 students. We have 100, and this is for the elementary, we have 197 students doing in-person for the elementary. We have 18 doing distance learning, and that was of earlier last week, so that number might have changed. So our total enrollment based on those numbers is 215, so we're down about 3%, down 7 students in the elementary. Secondary, we projected 213 students. Hybrid, we have 195 students doing hybrid. We have 16 doing distance learning. Total enrollment is 213. So we don't have any enrollment melt is what I would call it. So we're at 0. So our total enrollment, our budget enrollment was 435. We're at 428. That's -7 students, or -2%. Any questions on the enrollment?
Jeff, just, I was reading some information today about, I believe that Senate File 10, I can't remember who introduced it, but it was to like hold harmless schools that had enrollment changes because of COVID. Would that be based on
Yep.
October 1, do you think? Or would that be based on some number before that?
Usually when you're held harmless, usually they look at your numbers from the previous year.
Okay.
Um,
I was just curious if you'd seen
Yep.
that, or, you know, obviously it's not passed. It didn't look like it had passed yet, but it was introduced.
Yeah, no, that's a push. We've been pretty lucky, fortunate, I guess, as far as students leaving the district. Some other districts have seen alarming numbers of kids doing homeschooling or enrolling in online institutions. Monaga, for example, is looking at about $2.5 million shortfall based on kids leaving the district for various reasons during this COVID thing. So there's a push during this distance hybrid, whatever you want to call it, time to hold schools harmless. So we would base our revenues on last year's enrollment numbers. Because for whatever reason, we have, families choosing to homeschool, enroll in an online learning. So I think that would be helpful for districts because some of this was unforeseeable and almost impossible to budget. But like I said, right now we're pretty fortunate where we're sitting as far as homeschool and leaving the district. So.
And if I remember correctly, that was the adjusted student count, I think, too.
Yes, your ADMs. Yep.
Yeah, the ADM. So it would, the elementary has less impact, the loss in elementary has less impact than secondary. Am I correct?
Yep. Elementary kids are weighted 1.0 and high school are weighted 1.2.
And not that we know it's going to pass or anything, but I was just, that's probably a concern statewide, I would think.
Yes.
So
Yep.
it might have a pretty good chance of passing.
Yeah. So that's one thing the legislature historically in Minnesota is always, whenever they change legislation or funding, is they always look at holding districts harmless. So you don't go backwards based on new legislation or declining enrollment and stuff. So I would be surprised if they don't do some kind of hold harmless for schools during this time. But we'll have to wait and see.
Hey, Jeff, what happens when a kid does go to homeschool? I mean, there's X amount of dollars from the state kind of attached with that kid. Obviously, it doesn't go to the parents or wherever else they're going. Is in a homeschooling situation. What happens to it? Does it just evaporate or what? Does the school district get anything or?
I'd have to look into that. I don't know exactly how that works because they can request certain curriculum and stuff like that. So if the school provides things, I think there's ways for the school to recoup some state funding for those students. But basically, for the most part, it's just lost revenue as far as the main formula.
Okay.
Any questions on the enrollment? Other updates, I listed the sanitation committee. And I don't know if Boyd, if you want to discuss that a little bit, but we did talk about a while ago doing some composting with school meals. And I know there's been some discussion in the sanitation department at the county that could possibly be a viable solution. Anything you want to add to that, Boyd?
Yeah, sure. So right now, I think we've done a very good job at diverting our waste stream, unless we've regressed or something like that. But we had been doing, sounded like very good at recycling cardboard and paper and that sort of thing. So that pretty much leaves your packaging, plastic, that sort of thing, and food waste. And probably talking with Bertle, food waste is probably one of the vast majority of our waste right now. So if we could do something about that, well, then it would save us money in removing the refuse, and also actually might be a potential moneymaker as far as compost, because it would be come from a food source. So you'd be fairly certain that there aren't chemicals or mercury or other or things like that. That's the problem that some of the landfills and things get into. It's very hard to ensure that you've got a safe source that somebody could use in their garden, that sort of thing. At any rate, I know last time when we were kind of bouncing this idea around, the problem is obviously that, well, when's most of our food waste generated? In the wintertime. And we were kind of under the idea that, well, it wouldn't work because it would freeze. But talking with a couple of the guys out the landfill, Ted Furbish would be the one to certainly discuss with. But they were saying that even in the winter, the decomposition keeps the pile from freezing. So conceivably, we might be able to do it in the winter. So it was just, it's an interesting concept. I mean, again, we could theoretically get this to the point where we could sell Lake of the Woods food dirt, or not Lake of the Woods school dirt, and maybe break even or possibly make money on it or something like that. So that's all that was about. And just the fact that it sounds like it might be possible is what brought it to the attention.
So what I would like to do is I will send out an email to our sanitation committee, or I think that's what we called it. We had a committee.
Yeah, it was, Ted was on it.
And Ted, so maybe we'll have a meeting to revisit that, and we can have a report on how our paper recycling and all that is going. So in the coming weeks, I will get that committee fired up, and I think we also need to get fired up with our policy committee and start getting back on track with some of those things. So I think that's my goal here in the next couple of weeks, is set some of these regular committee meetings. They'll have to be Zoom probably, but we probably need to still take care of some business, even though we're busy with other things right now. So any questions? So the last thing I have just added is, and I sent out public notice, and I know Kay is with us tonight. We did have a positive COVID case within our school community. So we've gone through working with public health and doing the contact tracing, and that information's gone out. So we'll just continue to monitor the situation and react accordingly. Is there anything, Kay, that you want to add or mention?
No, just that we're working with the clinic and Dr. Quo as far as any testing needs for illness. So, so we've got our people on this side aware and kind of a wait and see. the exposed folks, some are staying home, so that's the main thing.
So just to clarify, those that have direct close contact will need to quarantine for 14 days, whether they test positive or negative, correct?
Yeah, it's 14 days for quarantine. If someone were to test positive, it's actually a shorter, it's a 10-day window. And the symptoms have to have resolved and no fever. But once you're sick, it's actually a shorter time. If you're waiting to get sick, it's 14 days.
Yep.
That's always kind of seems backwards, but that's how it is. So, and I think I have a couple folks that are interested in getting some testing done at the end of this week, just to see if they are going to be positive or not.
Okay.
Yeah, usually you don't test prior to 7 days is kind of ideal to make sure there's a good viral load, and you can capture that positive. So we determined that Friday, Saturday would be good days to start testing.
I saw we had a date of September 25th as a contact, or I think that might have been the day that that person was tested, I believe, or are we going back from there from contact people or forward, or where are we going from that date? How did we come up with that date?
The 25th was the date that students would have been exposed to the person that tested positive. And so when you look at exposures, you go back 2 days, either from the date of test or from the date of when their symptoms started. So in this case, it was we went back 2 days from onset of symptoms.
Okay.
So, and determined that the 25th was the day that students were involved.
And Jeff,
how do you determine what
go ahead, Jeff.
find is close? You know, there were some loose parameters there. How do you know what's close contact?
We go by 15 minutes within 6 feet, and that's with or without a mask. So if you spent at least 15 minutes or 15 minutes compiled during the day, so say 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, they add up those minutes. So 15 minutes of contact closer than 6 feet.
So how many kids are we talking about here who are now quarantined or isolating or whatever you want to call it?
I think
I'd
we're
have to,
around-
go ahead, Kay.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know of 8 or 9, just the direct ones, and then I don't know after the school got finished today with
I want to say it's 12 persons.
Then all
Off the top of
12
my
would
head.
have fallen within that 6 feet greater than 15 minutes sort of thing, or just
yeah.
For
to
the
verify.
most part, there's a few and Kay, you can correct me, we did contact a few of the families. Usually you don't, the contact of a contact, but we're concerned with some of the families and the close contact that there is, and asked them to keep the kids home, or if it was an employee, ask them to stay home until after their child or sibling was tested. And if they come back negative, then they would be able to return. So
Family member of the contact.
the family member, yeah.
And I'm sorry, you kind of precluded that with, what was it, that some of these may not have been within the 6 feet for 15 minutes, that you
No, it's usually it's direct contact where you have to do that 14-day isolation. So a contact of a contact person normally doesn't fall into this, but under the situation, I erred on the being more conservative. And if a family member had direct contact, the guidelines say that you can send the siblings to school. But since they're going to get tested this Friday, I elected to have them stay home until Friday to make sure that they haven't been exposed firsthand to someone that's going to come out positive. That makes sense?
Yep, I think so. So, and we're following guidelines, protocol, all that stuff, right? As long
We're
as not
following
making
it.
Something up or
Plus,
changing it.
well, no, I consulted with local health on some things and made that determination. But ultimately, public health will say it's up to the school to make that decision. So I went a little bit above and beyond by asking a few students and staff to stay home until after Friday when hopefully they get those test results.
Okay.
Jeff, having the meetings every 2 weeks?
Yes, the district cabinet meeting will be this Thursday at 6:30, and that's the leadership team, a couple school board members, public health, and some parent representatives will be meeting this Thursday. And that's when we'll get our updated numbers. And I know that 2 weeks or the last number, we're up to 23.63, which kind of puts us close to that high red across the board. But we elected to leave the elementary in person because we do have the social distancing in place. We've made accommodations with transportation. So even if we were going to do hybrid district-wide, basically it wouldn't change anything. We'd still have elementary kids coming in every day. But we'll watch that number. It's kind of a rotating number, so we'll see what happens this Thursday. I think it'll probably go down with some of the active numbers going off, but how far it goes down, I'm not sure.
So be maybe a chance at these cabinet meetings too to follow up just on the actions that we're taking.
Yep. I'm sure I'll get feedback on
Yeah.
whether it was appreciated going the extra step or not.
It might be a little too soon to tell since if they don't test till Friday, but
Yeah.
it would be a good discussion to have.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yes, I have one thing on the agenda that I want to make sure is worded correctly, and that's with the resolution setting the 2020 payable 21 property tax levy. I want to make sure that when we do the resolution, it should be a motion and a second to approve resolution 2020-2021-008, certifying proposed tax levy for 2020 payable 2021 at the maximum allowed. Because in December, when we do the final approval, there might be some adjustments or changes. And if the numbers, if we just, and it says in the write-up, I just want to make sure that that's clear, that we are levying what is recommended or the maximum allowable in case there's changes with some of the calculations at the state. So I just want to make sure that was clearly stated when we approve that when we approve that on the board agenda. Other than that, that's all I have.
Great, next on the agenda is high school principal Mary Marchant.
Good evening, everybody. I think the high school's off to a fantastic start. I will say the one thing that I did not have in place that I do now, and we'll go with the Maroon group tomorrow also, is assigned seats in the lunchroom. The kids have pretty much been sitting at the same places, but they weren't assigned. So today we went around, and so the kids know which table they will be expected to go to every day. So we will have that part of it covered. A team of high school teachers and myself have begun meeting to prepare for the possibility of distance learning, so that part of it'll be those that are already in distance learning. The letter that I sent out before school started, that will, you know, apply to everybody if we have to go that mode, and to just let everybody know ahead of time what the expectations will be, and just the protocols that teachers will follow and when they'll be available for everybody. So we've been working on that component. I continue to meet with the Northern Division principals on a weekly basis. We Zoom meet, and, you know, typically during the school year, we probably meet maybe once a month, if even that. But we've decided, because of all the things that are coming up, these meetings have been very helpful. Last week, one of the big topics that we talked about was, if we do go into distance learning, can teachers work from home? So one of the schools already had a document that they had been working on. So I've shared that with Jeff, and that's something we'll look at together as a district, so that we're all on the same page with where our teachers would be working from. And tomorrow I will participate in a CPI training. That'll be done through Zoom. So I'll have my door closed mostly during the day while I participate in that. But if something comes up, I'd be able to address it. And then next week, it'll also be a Zoom meeting, is the annual school law seminar for MASSP. And I am very proud to say I have gotten out all the 504 accommodations, and have begun the process of some of the updates, meeting with families, and there too with teachers, we do Zoom meetings to get those addressed. And then Interquest Detection Canine Unit, they will start their visits in October. If you recall, last spring when COVID hit and we all went into distance learning, they weren't able to come into the schools. So they're starting by using the days that they did not finish with their contract last year, starting the year this year using those days. So we still are using what we paid for last spring, starting out with that this fall. And then we have an achievement and integration grant. That's where we team up with Kellier and North Home and give our students the opportunity. Last year, they were able to go off campus and visit some businesses. I believe Crystal Sugar was one of them that they went and visited. And then when COVID hit, they were no longer allowed, you know, to travel or anything. So visited with Cynthia Sealander today, and we're going to look at least being able to set up some virtual visits. And then Cynthia is also going to see if MDE would extend our grant, so that when we can travel again, we'd be able to use that money, even if we'd be looking at next year, because we really don't foresee there being a cost or much of a cost if we'd be able to do virtual visits. So that's where we are sitting with that. Does anybody have any questions for me?
What are 504 accommodations?
When a student, and typically it'll be for a medical reason. So when a student has a medical reason and it wouldn't fall under like special ed qualifications, it's a way that we can show they meet the criteria to put accommodations in place for them. Sometimes it might be a long-term disability. Sometimes it might be short-term. You know, so often they are things that our teachers automatically will make those accommodations for the kids, but it's something we put in place to just assure that and make sure the information gets out to everybody. So an example of that could be perhaps a student with diabetes. They might have to make frequent trips, you know, throughout the week to take care of their insulin needs. Well, they're going to be missing class time. That might mean an accommodation would be giving extra time to get the assignment handed in and things like that. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Yep.
Next up is,
Crystal is not available tonight. She's on the road.
okay. All right, then Activities Director, Chad Hazelton.
Well, I guess that falls to me. The last week or so has been pretty crazy. We're not having sports until spring, and then all of a sudden they tell us that in 1 week, be prepared to start up your fall sports. Jeff, were you going to make it so I could share my screen?
Yep, you should be good. I made you a co-host.
Okay, so I'm going to put some different documents up here that just kind of cover protocol and procedure for some of the sports we have coming up. So I'll see if I can get this right here. And start with football. Can we see that screen? You know, you can't see it?
No,
How about now? Anything now? All right, well, I'm having technology difficulties, so I'm just going to talk through it. So some of the things that they have with volleyball is we're not going to have any fans in the gym. It'll be limited to teams and essential players only. We are going to have our benches socially distanced. We will try and live stream the games. I've got some video equipment coming that should be able to live stream the volleyball games. We're going to be starting volleyball with a slight delay of a couple weeks for the high school. Once they are able to continue practice, then we will have to go through another 10 days or 11 days of training. So the first date that they're probably going to be able to play is probably going to be October 24th. So we've got that with volleyball coming up. Football started their practices today. We've got 21 high school kids and 10 junior high kids signed up and participating. We're going to run a modified junior high season where they're going to actually practice at the same time as the varsity team and going to play 3 games. The high school team is going to play 5, possibly 6 games in the regular season with 1 playoff game. The high school is being played outside, so they are allowed up to 250 fans at a game. We've decided to go with a lower number that's going to be kind of moving based on the number of participants. Each participant is going to get 2 wristbands for their parents, or if it's a split family, they'll get 4. And we're going to do the same thing for the visiting teams. So those will be the people that are allowed inside the gates, along with the essential workers. Score clock, referees, chain gangs, stuff like that. They've got a whole list of protocols and procedures that we need to follow for on the field regulations during those games. So it's a whole lot coming up. The first home game is scheduled for October 9th, which will be 2 Fridays from now. So we've got a home game on the 9th, the 30th, and then November 12th. Questions? All right, well.
Is that volleyball game on the 24th, the home game?
No. That is not. And I will confer with the State High School League. I got a message into them, but they didn't get back to me to verify that that'd be when they would be able to start competition. With our volleyball, we're going to talk tomorrow, but we think we're going to let our 7th and 8th graders go ahead and start their season starting probably on Wednesday. So our 7th and 8th graders will be able to start their season probably on Wednesday, with our high school having to wait for 14 days. Anything else I missed, Mr. Nelson?
I sent out information last month on the COVID charge at the State High School League. Any changes or updates on that extra $5,000 we're being billed?
They're going to be discussing that again on Thursday at their board meeting on the 1st, to possibly go back and revisit it a little bit to see if they disproportionately charged some of the smaller districts. So there is a chance that that number could decrease. I don't see it going away, but I can see it decreasing.
Okay, any talk that this would be a permanent charge moving forward?
Um, They're saying that it's not. Once state tournaments and everything are able to start up again and their revenue stream comes back, they say that there may be a chance that some of that money will actually get returned to the schools. But once again, that's just discussion right now, and it's nothing set in stone or permanent.
Okay.
Anything
That's all I
else?
got. There probably is, but I don't. Oh, coaches, two coaches that are not on the approval thing for tonight would be our junior high coaches who just sent in applications last Friday. And we'll get that out with the next one.
And then-
So there's no new positions. It's just some staff have elected not to coach this year. So we did fill a couple of
Yep.
positions open.
Correct.
Moving on then, buildings and grounds, I don't see Seth on.
No, Seth is not available tonight either.
Okay, then it would be community ed and transportation. Fred?
Hey, everyone. We'll start with transportation. We've had a lot of changes on our bus routes so far this year, but everything's been going fairly smooth. And we're getting the kids to and from school. So not a whole lot to talk about there. Community ed wise, we still not a whole lot going on. We did wrap up Bear Power with fall sports starting out. We have started firearm safety training today. And I just, I'm talking to Mr. Nault, our driver's ed teacher, and we're looking at doing an online driver's ed course, probably sometime starting late October. But I still have to talk with him more and hammer out all the details. Everything's going pretty smooth our end, so is there any questions?
I got a question for you. So just out of curiosity, what happens, say siblings are driving to school and now the driver can't drive for whatever reason? Can the other sibling then ride the bus or what?
If, so if they're not currently on the route, is that what you're asking?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they were
So-
last year, but I mean, they're not being picked up this year because the one sibling can drive. So I'm just curious what happens in an instance where the driver isn't available. Can the non-driving sibling ride the bus?
Right, so we've actually had a lot of changes like that this year. If someone needs to get picked up by a school bus, we're just asking them to call the school and get a hold of me, and then we're gonna add them to a route. And then they're on the route to be picked up. A lot of times we'll have our, the parents compete with the drivers, so if it's possibly once a week or maybe once a month, they'll let the driver know to swing by. However, if they are going to be riding the bus on a route, they have to be on a route list. And then that route is the only route they would be able to be on.
So they have to be added to the route list before they can ride on the bus.
Correct.
Okay. And how, what does it take to get added to the route list?
Just a phone call, they can call the school, get transferred to me, send me an email, call me. And it takes about 2 minutes and I hop on a route and I talk to my driver and it's set up.
Okay. So I'm obviously asking about my own kids. My wife emailed you today, but she hadn't heard back, so I figured I'd ask the question.
Yep, I'll probably get hold of her tomorrow.
Okay, well, tomorrow's when she has to ride the bus. In the, only in the afternoon.
Okay, we'll make it work.
Okay,
I imagine you'll have some of that as there are cases popping up and maybe a student can't come to school, whereas they were the driver and, yeah, so the best thing to do is just to call you directly and then,
Yep, if anyone needs to get a ride,
yeah,
call me and I can get them on a route. So we have, all these kids divided up like a route or pods. So if there is an issue, who potentially could have been around that.
yeah. Anything else?
Nothing, unless you have more questions.
Thanks, Brian. Food service, DC?
Yes, I don't have anything. I know that the contract for the daycare meals is up for approval, so I just wanted to let you know that that contract is, right now, the students are receiving free meals through the summer food program. And that will continue until December 31st or when funding runs out. But right now, they are receiving free meals. And that's all I have.
I think the rest of it's from remnants from last month.
Okay. But the holiday extravaganza, that is a new,
I think last month we said we were gonna cancel it.
Right, and I just notified all the vendors, all the newspaper, it's on our website. We just wanted to get the word out so that people know. And I also contacted the chamber, Julie Malberg, to let her know, because we usually go together with them with their tree lighting. So they're aware of it too.
thank you, Cece.
Thank you.
Anything else? I think we can adjourn the working session and then move on to the regular meeting. Call to order. Say the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With the additions of leave request for Stephanie Pletko, removal of Brent Noble assistant football, and the addition of JP Sweet junior high football. And under old business, the addition of the consideration to set public hearing for Monday, October 26th at 7 p.m. for property tax abatement. I'll make a motion. A motion by Sonstagard. I'll second that. Second by Ellis. Call for a vote.
Can I, do we want to address the leave question? Does anyone have any questions on?
Yes. Should that be?
And I believe that should read Brent Cole. Brent Cole is replacing Brent Noble. JP Sweet wouldn't be replacing Brent Noble.
No, it's not a replacement. Oh, there was an addition. That's not on this one.
So we move, okay. Not the consent agenda. So you added, you took off Brent Noble.
Yeah.
and you
Oh,
added-
I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself.
Yeah, but he's saying that. it's not. Oh, he's saying that. Brent Cole's on the list. I don't know if it was an addition.
He is on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's always on. Just a second. Brent Cole was doing high.
I'm just gonna get clarification from Chad.
Okay.
Chad?
Yes,
Okay, just so we're correct on this, Brent Noble was on the agenda for assistant football. He's now removed. Brent Cole is on the list for junior high football.
correct.
Okay, and then we've got JP Sweet for junior high football.
Yep, he would be returning.
Okay, yeah, so that's what we've got.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you. And then we'll do the agenda and
Then we'll
go
do
to
that.
consent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right, so I got a motion to approve the agenda by Sandsgaard, a second by Ellis. I'm going to call for a vote. Ellis.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Trask, aye. Sandsgaard.
Aye.
Lyon.
Aye.
Bertram. He's not there. He's there. Jeff Bertram.
I think that was an I.
Yeah.
I read his lips.
We're lip reading.
Say, I know I got that, which is probably removed.
I said it 3 times, I, but I gotta hit the. mute button, sorry.
Okay. So can
No, that's fine. We just approved the regular agenda.
yeah, okay. So now I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda with how I want to word this, the leave request for Stephanie Putko to be removed and dealt with next in line.
So you're requesting to pull the leave request from the consent agenda.
Pull it from the consent agenda and then just
Just
add
add
it
it under new business.
or under new business, sure. Yep.
You're looking for that motion?
Yes, please.
I'll make the motion for you.
Okay. For a second.
I'll second.
Second by Ellis. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Ellis.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Trask, aye. Sandsgaard.
Aye.
Lyon.
Aye.
Bertram.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Any board presenters? Written communications? None. Old business. Looking for a motion to approve the second reading of policy 808 COVID-19 face covering policy.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Bertram,
I'll second.
any discussion? Call for a vote. Ellis?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Trask? Aye. Sandsgaard?
Aye.
Lyon?
Aye.
Bertram?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Can I make a recommendation?
Yes.
Should we do the leave request first and under new business so it doesn't get forgotten? at the
Yeah.
end?
that's what I didn't know. And I don't. Okay. All right. Next under old business is consideration to set public hearing for Monday, October 26th at 7 p.m. for property tax abatement.
I'll make that motion.
By Ellis.
I will second that. Aren't we supposed to attach a number there or no?
That's one thing too.
Oh, I think we were.
Yeah.
And that, I'll amend that motion to be for $5,688 for a 5-year period or a total of $28,439. All right, Jeff?
Wait, was that a motion or a second?
I
Or a
addended that,
motion or a discussion?
no, I addended that motion to include those numbers.
Not to seek,
I addended the motion to include those numbers for you.
How about we, well, if we can, I don't know if we can do this now or in discussion, rather than having that amount each year, do a prorated scale where it starts out 100% the first year and gets down to arbitrarily 20% the 5th year.
That wasn't the motion that I made.
I know, that's why I'm asking for clarification.
so it's not to exceed $28,440, is that?
Yeah.
Over 5 years?
You're looking for a second for that motion?
5,680.
80.
5688.
Okay, got it.
Is that right?
So you might want to restate your
So
motion.
it should be 440. rather than
28,440 would be the
439.
max.
I'm sorry, I was just taking it off of the note and the total is $28,440 over the 5-year period.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second. Now we'll call for discussion.
You have a second?
Yeah, Tim was the second. And I think Boyd had some
No
discussion.
discussion.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, now discussion. So, well, I mean, you guys know my thoughts on the matter. I think the school should stay out of it entirely. Now's the time to do it. Coming up, it makes life easy. It's not a huge amount of money. If you want money, I mean, it's very easy to be generous with other people's money. This is the taxpayers' money. And the intent is for it to go to the school. And if we go with any future referendums or something, and we've given money back, it kind of makes us look bad, at least the way I think of it. But I think I must think of tax money slightly differently than everyone else. If you guys really want to go ahead with this, I propose that rather than 100% each year, do a prorated scale where it's 100% the first year and then work it down to 20% the last year and fill in the numbers in between.
I guess in the, go ahead, Tim.
I'm going to look at this as a little bit of a slippery slope for you, Boyd, because I agree with your take on it. And I'm basing my decision as much on what I'm hearing from my constituents as I am on my own opinion. So I'm thinking it's kind of like a pregnancy thing. It's all or none sort of in your opinion on it, which I appreciate. So don't get me wrong on that. That if we either do it or we don't. And so if you're trying to diminish the number, it's not the number that I'm arguing with so much as it is the philosophy about the support of the business. And I think we're on different sides, and that's okay. I like the idea of just putting it out there with the amount we have and then offering the public hearing possibility so that truly, I think that that's what's really nice about this discussion is we can hear what the public wants to do with this. You know, and do they not want to do it, or they do? I don't think the public's going to step in and say, well, let's give them $150. I think that bottom line is, do they want to do it or don't they? And let's just, you know, do that number that we've thrown out there and see if John Q. Public's willing to side with that.
We can. We're a representative. We're representatives of our constituents. That is a very valid point. If people don't bother showing up for the meeting, then so be it. You deserve the government you elect. So if nobody shows up, then it's on us. And again, again, I look at it as I was elected as a representative. If my constituents don't like the decisions I'm making, they can sure vote me out. That'd be perfectly fine. Until then, I will vote however I believe the right way is. And again, this is public money being used to fund a private enterprise that isn't super critical. I mean, what they're proposing is not critical to the community. We are not saving the grocery store or anything else. I mean, if that was the case, fine. I'll take the Jesse Ventura approach. Open your books. If you're that hurting, we'll talk. And I'd get behind something like that. This is an expansion. $1 million of the $3 million budget, according to the numbers we've been given, goes to a coffee shop. Why are we giving away school funding? And we just talked about losing students and everything else. We're looking at asking the taxpayers for more money coming up here. How can we look them in the eye after giving away, say, yep, we need more money. Yeah, we gave away money to here, but now we want more money. That's the issue I've got with the whole thing. So I've said my piece. You guys know where I stand.
Anything else? Any other discussion? Okay. Guess it's time to call for a vote then. Ellis. Aye. Johnson.
Nay.
Trask. Aye. Sundsgaard.
Aye.
Lyon.
Aye.
Bertram.
Nay.
So the motion passes 4-2. And just so we're clear, that is to bring this consideration public hearing on Monday, October 26th at 7 p.m. And it's 5,688 at 5 years or 20,440.
28,000.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I'd just like to chime in and say I appreciate the split vote. We deserve one of those.
Doesn't happen very often. Okay. No, thank you. Moving on. New business. So first up, we'll have a leave request for Stephanie Plutko, professional leave request. And, right now, we've got a request for 2 days. Jeff, can you give the
Yep, I'm looking at here. So Stephanie Plutko is currently a paraprofessional working in teletherapy, and she is working on her speech language pathology assistant degree. One of the challenges is having to complete a practicum. She's got to get in so many hours over the course of this year to meet those. And we have it set up where 2 days a week she would go over to Warroad and work on her practicum with them because she has to be under direct supervision of a speech pathologist. So that's why she has to be over there. She would still do her service here, but would not be in the building those 2 days to work on that practicum. And she's, in her letter, she's requested 2 days paid professional leave per week. And I didn't do the math and come up with how many actual days that would be. But it would add up over the next 30 some odd weeks of school that we have. So I just want to remind the board that you several months ago, you had a non-paid request for leave. Granted, it was for 2 years for someone going back to get their teaching licensure. This is a little bit different. It's a highly needed position because we've been advertising, I don't know if it's 3 going on 4 years, trying to find a speech pathologist. We've had to do teletherapy primarily, which limits the services we can provide a little bit. Having her have this licensure would help the district long-term because there's more services that she could provide with that licensure. And it might save some service hours that we're paying out for the teletherapy. It won't totally fix our issue with not having that licensed teacher, but it would help. But I'm a little concerned from my perspective, on the paid leave days. And I'm not sure what a good answer is as far as helping people out with this position. I think there's something we should look into, but that is how to make it equitable and something that you're not setting precedents moving forward is a concern.
Would the Warroad School be paying her anything, or is that there no?
No, it would be
Nothing
just
there.
like a student teacher that comes here and goes into the classroom and does their practicum with our staff. We've never paid for that position. It's more of a clinical supervised type thing. So it's not that she's working with kids and going through that, but it's not a paid position with Warroad.
So down the road, would she be able to work under a speech language pathology?
Yes.
Just elsewhere, under the direction of that person that's elsewhere, she would be able to provide services here? Would that be a hope or a possibility?
What it would allow, there's certain services that she can provide and certain services that she can't, and I don't have the breakdown in the back of my head as far as what special ed services she can provide. But it would help us with some of the teletherapy issues that we have. So I would like to, I don't know, do I make a recommendation or?
I guess I have a question. Is she working now with speech for children?
Yes, she's been working with this, she's been, I can't remember how many years, it's a 2+ year program, but she's been in the speech program, working with students here at the district for quite a
Well,
while.
and that's, I was pretty sure, but the other question is then she's able to schedule those students within
Yep.
the 3 days?
All of our current students' needs are being provided in those 3 days.
So what would she do the other 2 days?
The other 2 days, when she's not doing speech, she would be reassigned to other special ed students. So, and we've made accommodations to make this work. But I think we have to look at other options other than making it a paid leave.
I don't think it should be a paid leave, but that's my personal opinion.
But it does make it hard for people to go to school and get these licensures and keep their job and pay their bills, so I
Yeah.
certainly understand where she's coming from.
I do too, but
But that might be something for me to sit down with Crystal and her and maybe do a little more research and find out what other compensation districts offer. Because once she comes back with this licensure, that might be a place where that's when she would be compensated with the
Yeah.
degree and the higher level of the position.
Right now, do we need She's starting this, I'm assuming, right now, so she needs approval to take some type of leave, whether it's unpaid or paid. So should we take action, or can this be tabled? I guess that's,
Well, we can,
Could be granted unpaid.
you can grant it
and-
unpaid and we can work on trying to come up with, once she completes the service, maybe that would be to grant it as unpaid and revisit it at the next month.
okay. That would be an option.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe there can be something worked out, but till we have more information, I hate to.
And did you say, Jeff, would the degree she would get is an assistant or what was her
Yes.
degree?
It's a speech language pathologist assistant. A
Okay,
speech language pathologist is a master's plus degree.
okay,
It's
Now-
way beyond a bachelor. I mean, it's above and it's a master's degree to get that licensure.
so if she were to get this assistant degree, if we still don't have a full speech
Yep,
pathologist,
She'd still have to work under a speech pathologist, but she could give more direct services with this
Okay.
license than what she can do. Right now, basically, the student has to work directly with the speech pathologist and she's in there to support. She could provide some of those service hours, giving direct service without having that licensed person involved every day. They would still oversee it, oversee the IEP and making sure that due process is followed. But it would allow her to provide more direct service that she cannot do right now. So
Okay.
right now, when we do teletherapy, we have the speech teacher on the other end of the computer. We have the student sitting in front of the computer, and then we have a paraprofessional in the room assisting the student, manipulating the computer, running copies of papers, that type of thing. So we actually have 2 staff for one student. With this degree, some of those services, not all of them, it depends on the student and the disability. We would not have to have that teaching license service minutes during some of those times when she can provide the direct service.
Okay, yeah, I
Right
think,
now, we're paying for a full-time teacher and we're paying for a para in there 3 days a week. So there could be some cost offset
Is there any
long-term.
way it would fit under the professional education? And I don't know, like if a teacher is going on to get their master's, you pay them?
No, with the teacher's contract, and that's where the MSEA contract, that's why we need to involve the union as well on developing teacher's contract. They get steps and they can get lane changes once they've completed so many credits. And that's moves them up on the salary schedule. We don't
pay
really,
them to do that.
we don't pay them to do that, but once they've completed it,
Yeah,
so they do recoup the costs, the
Right.
tuition costs and stuff like that.
but I mean, we don't pay for their time off to get.
No,
that.
no.
That's what I,
Jeff, is she getting close to her degree? I mean, is this the final end of the
I think
process?
this is kind of the last step, the practicum, and I know she has 2 more semesters. So basically, this is pretty much this whole full year, she'll be finishing up her practicum. And I think after that, she might be done, because she's been doing all the pedagogical classes and all that fun stuff online, and now it's the time to do the clinical and the practicums, so.
And I don't suppose there's any guarantee we can lay on her about definitely being back to Lake of the Woods for a minimum of 5 years or something like that, should we provide some sort of assistance?
That is something I need to research and see what other districts, if there's other language like that. It's certainly could be a possibility. But I think to be fair, we'd have to be able to offer that to multiple staff if they so choose to do that. And I And I'm not against that. I think growing our own sometimes is how we can kind of fill some of our vacant positions and stuff.
Okay, so
I guess I was thinking the same thing. It would definitely help to sweeten the pot, so to speak, in being in favor of it.
So we're looking for a motion. Um,
Now that we've had the discussion, I'll make the motion.
And what is your motion?
Oh, I say table it, right? Why don't we table it and then you can find the information? Is that what you want to do, Jeff?
Maybe just maybe I would make if we can just approve if the board is willing to make a motion to allow for the leave, but unpaid at this time.
Okay, I'll make the motion to approve the leave request unpaid until further notice.
Okay. And a motion from Boyd.
I would second that.
Go ahead, Tim.
Okay. Second from Tim Lyon. Any more discussion? It sounds like we'll be hearing more on this possibly at the next board meeting. It's ready. Okay, I'll call for a vote. Ellis. Aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Trask. Aye. Sandstegard. Aye. Lyon.
Aye.
Bertram.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, next up is the approval of the athletic facilities lease agreement with the Baudette Area Arena for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021.
I would make that motion.
I would second that.
Motion by Lyon, a second by Alice to approve the agreement. Any discussion?
I see they've got a figure skating up and running and a lot of positive things going on here just in the last short amount of time that a couple of new coaches and getting some good participation at the arena.
What was the, unless I missed it, what was the amount for the agreement last year? Does anyone
It's
know?
the same amount,
It's the same amount?
Okay.
68,000 for the year.
Okay.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, call for a vote. Ellis. Aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Trask. Aye. Sandstegard.
Aye.
Lyon.
Aye.
Bertram.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, we're looking for a motion to approve resolution 2020/2021-007, accepting donation for elementary music from North Star Electric Cooperative.
Can I make a correction? It's North Star Electric Cooperative Community Trust, also known as Operation Roundup.
Okay.
And I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Sandstegard, second by Ellis. Any discussion? This was to purchase ukuleles. Okay, call for a vote. Ellis? Aye. Johnson?
Aye.
Trask? Aye. Sandstegard? Aye. Lyon?
Aye.
Bertram?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, North Star Electric Cooperative Community Trust. Next, we'll Looking for the approval of resolution 2020/2021-008, certifying proposed tax levy for 2020 payable 2021 at the maximum allowed.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
By Lyon.
Second by Lyon. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. Ellis? Aye. Johnson?
Aye.
Trask? Aye. Southgard?
Aye.
Lyon?
Aye.
Bertram?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Next, we're looking for the approval of resolution 2020/2021-009, appointing Jeff Nelson, superintendent, as identified official with authority, and Crystal Olson, business manager, to act as the Iowa, to add and remove names only for Lake of the Woods Independent School District 390.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Ellis, second by Bertram. Any discussion?
Jeff's the Iowa.
Woohoo.
Okay, call for a vote. Ellis?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Trask? Aye. Santiago?
Aye.
Lyon?
Aye.
Bertram?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we're looking for a motion to approve resolution 2020/2021-010, accepting a donation for the backpack program from Mount Carmel WDLPA.
Lyon will make the motion.
Bertram will.
Motion by Lyon, second by Santiago. Any discussion? So the donation of $500 to the Little School Backpack Program. Call for a vote. Ellis? Aye. Johnson?
Aye.
Trask? Aye. Santiago?
Aye.
Lyon?
Aye.
Bertram?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Mark. Mount Carmel. Next, we're looking for the approval of memorandum of understanding with Northwest Community Action Head Start for adult meals for the 2020-2021 school year.
I'll make the motion.
Second by Lyon.
I got a motion by Bertram, a second by Lyon. Any discussion?
This is adult meals.
Adult and children both, right?
Just
Adult
adult.
breakfast, adult lunch. I'm just curious why it's adult.
I was just looking at the contract. Did it cover the?
I'm just curious who are the
Answer
adults?
that question, maybe?
It says annually to their program adults.
So it's
But then,
It's eligible Head Start participants qualify for free and reduced. And this is for staff who have school lunches.
oh,
So I think they pay for their staff to eat lunch.
Oh,
That's my understanding.
but that makes sense. I was just.
so
Or
no, that
when I think of Head Start.
that was the daycare ones.
Yeah. well,
The daycare ones are
Head
different.
Start,
Not adult.
Yeah. Okay.
Cece, you can chime in. Is
Yeah.
that, did I do that correctly?
Ye-
I got thumbs up from Cece. That's good.
thumbs up.
Is the daycare, they were paying the adult price.
Okay, so looking for a motion to approve this MOU.
And I think, is that what we had a motion in a second for already?
Oh, did I?
Yeah, I think we did.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, thank you. All right, I'm gonna call. for
I
a
was
vote.
waiting for discussion to ask the question.
Okay, call for a vote. Ellis.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Trask. Aye. Sondergaard.
Aye.
Lyon.
Aye.
Grisham.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Next, we're looking for the approval of contract for meals with Busy Bees Daycare.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Sondergaard with a second by Ellis. Any discussion?
This
It's
was,
needed until the funding runs out effectively, 31st of December or until the funding runs out. Is that what I read?
yes,
For the free meals, yep.
And what's expected to happen after the first of the year?
that's why we're having the contract in place, because then they will be, we will be invoicing them and they will pay the contracted amount that we are charging.
And the district has to charge the adult breakfast and lunch prices for the childcare because they don't qualify for the other
We
reimbursement.
we don't get any reimbursements from the state for them because they're not in school.
So this is in case the summer food program runs out of money and we have to go back to charging meals. This is to cover that.
So right now they're getting.
Right now, they get it free.
Okay.
Any
Yeah.
kids under 18.
That could run out before the end of the year.
Could.
Okay. Anything else on this one? Other questions? Okay, I'm gonna call for a vote. Ellis?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Trask? Aye. Sondergaard?
Aye.
Lyon?
Aye.
Grisham?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Next up is approval of the contract for meals with Little Explorers Daycare.
I'd make that motion. Lyon.
I'll second that.
A motion by Lyon and second by Ellis. Any discussion? Call for a vote. Ellis?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Trask? Aye. Sondergaard?
Aye.
Lyon?
Aye.
Grisham?
Aye.
Motion passes. I think that's it. Is there any other business? Okay. All right. Adjourn the meeting at 7:43. Thank you, everyone.
Good job, Corinne.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Take care.
You have a whole packet of stuff to sign, Jeff, or?